All right, welcome everyone. We're going to get started because I'm on a time schedule, apparently. So, thank you for joining me here on stage. They're still thanking us for sponsoring. I hope my slides are going to come up in a second. Normally, just looking at technical people. Yeah, there we go. So, I chose as a non-native English speaker, one of the hardest words to pronounce is interoperable, which is not easy for me to pronounce, but I'm here to talk about, a bit of the future of Tableau, Tableau Next and Tableau Cloud. No audio there? Can everybody hear me? Then there's one person having an issue. Maybe you need to switch headsets. Apologies for that. So I think for the last probably 15 years, 20 years, Tableau is pretty old. We've been building things. We've been building dashboards and reports the whole time. And now it feels a bit for some of you that the ground is being pulled away under your feet because suddenly you have to do something with agents and agentic, and that's the future, and dashboards are gone. And that's why I'm here to talk about a bit, to see not about the products per se, but what's your role as a data analyst or engineer or analytics engineer is going to be in the future. So my name is Geoffrey. I run a company called Biztory. We're one of the main sponsors. If you don't know Biztory, take a look at your lanyard. We're at the keynote sponsor here. We're in the back in the corner. We've been doing Tableau for 11 years now. Tableau only partner. Then we moved into what we call the modern data stack partner, partnering with fantastic technologies like Snowflake, Salesforce, dbt, and so on. Basically, we're here as an organization to help you accelerate your data and AI journey. And parts of the things I'm going to talk to you about today are things we also had to evolve as a company, not doing the Tableau only dashboard thing anymore, because basically things are changing. So, statement, and you can choose if it's truth or myth, is that the market has a problem. I think globally there's billions being spent on building this massive data infrastructure with limited ROI. Now, it's a bit of a bold statement because we've had on-premise data warehouse for a long time. Then we started moving to the cloud and cloud data warehouses with cloud ETL tools or ELT tools. So we spent a lot of money in building these things, but statements are that ROI is low because 60% of these dashboards of data insights are stuck in dashboards. Hopefully in Tableau, of course, because we're at a Tableau data conference, but they might be in various tools, various platforms. There's still Excel reporting. I mean, there's a lot of Excel experts in there. And a statement is that only 30% of businesses really make decisions truly on data. And then there's the hype of AI, the AI bubble you hear about, and AI is going to solve everything, and there's probably C-level people and also people that are just big fans of saying, let's just chuck AI at it and solve every problem we have. And that's a hype expectation that we're trying to do. I feel sometimes, there's a meme I saw that you're at a counter and just these AI technologies are being scanned and thrown at you and you can't even put them in the bag in time. That's kind of the feeling I have on this market, and it's a bit intense for all of us. So is this actually true? Does the market have a problem? I think partially yes, but partially is also solutions. So if I talk to different C-level executives, we're entering a new era of BI. So basically, a CDO or a CTO will ask me the question, do I deploy my agents on Agentforce? Right? Biztory is an Agentforce partner, so we've deployed countless agents with Agentforce. Or do I have to use Microsoft Copilot? Or do I have to use OpenAI? Hey, but this Gemini thing is looking pretty cool, and there's probably hundreds of SaaS tools that have this bolted on. So as an organization, where do you deploy your agents? Because you want them to work across the organization. And you use Microsoft, but you also use Salesforce. So that's one of the problems I'm getting on this market. Then there's the metadata layer question. We all hopefully have nice metadata layers in our organizations, but do we build it in dbt? Do we have to use Salesforce? Do we use our Tableau data sources? Do I use Snowflake or Databricks or some other solution? And the latest question I've been facing is, hey, I've chucked some CSV into OpenAI and give me fantastic analysis. I do not need a BI tool anymore. Not really true, but that's questions we have. And is conversational analytics going to solve some of our solutions. So at Biztory, and I'm not going to talk too much about Biztory, don't worry, there's a way we look at this. So we try to map everything on the blueprint, and if you look at our organization 10 years ago, you see this BI and analytics, dashboarding and engineering, that's all we did. And we built some cultures and training and commitments. But as an organization, as a data consultancy today, we really have to think about how to strategize, how to activate data with engineering, with BI, with advanced analytics, and then of course agentic. And then we have to match that to the right technology. And technology is often scattered across the organization because you've invested for many years into different technologies. So that's how we look at that. But talking back about you, this is a bit of the image I have today of the identity crisis that we are, as a consultancy, also facing sometimes, but as a data analyst. Am I a data analyst? Am I a business analyst? Am I a data engineer? Or am I all three of them? And I feel that these roles of data engineering, the role of an AI engineer, the role of a data analyst are diverging closer to each other. And what skill set do you need to use? So often in an organization, maybe you can identify, you'll feel like you're trying to play the violin, which is basically creating your dashboard and your beautiful analysis. Meanwhile, there's a trumpet in your ear, which is the business trying to say, I need a change request, I need this label changed, I need an extra filter. You're trying to solve that. And meanwhile, you have to keep the drums playing, which is your data flowing in. So it's really hard to have all those jobs all by yourself, and you spend a lot of time basically managing the data, but really spending time finding insights and action out of the data. So as a modern data analyst, this is what I mentioned. There's the distraction of the trumpet. There's the constant grind of keeping the data fresh and ongoing. And basically what you really want to do is build value. Build those solos, build those beautiful dashboards, that beautiful analysis, but you rarely have the time to do it. And basically you rely on externals, or you rely on actually just running behind the business. So the problem here is that we're basically paving the way to drive a Ferrari, because let's be fair, Tableau is the Ferrari of visualization tools. We have probably invested in fantastic data warehouses like Snowflake or Databricks, which are fantastic, and the business is trying to run this, but you're constantly trying to pave the road as you're building your organization's data stack. So the real point is, if you open LinkedIn today, and it's something that's bothered me and bothered the whole DataFam for quite a while, is competitors will say, dashboards are dead. It's done. You don't need dashboards anymore. We're just going to do conversational analytics, or we'll call them live boards or something else, or widgets or whatever, or metrics. My personal opinion is very clear. Dashboards are not dead at all. Far from it. The organization still needs dashboards. And I think if you resonate, and I think some of my colleagues in the room will see that, and maybe some others, we all have that story of that one beautiful big dashboard we've built for an organization, that one big cockpit that did everything. The one where you probably looked up Andy Krubel's best practices for visualization, where you even built in export buttons, even if you kind of hate them, but the business is requiring them to export. Everything is looking clean and nice. You have filters, your data is flowing in nicely. It's working perfect. You also even enabled alerts on this dashboard, because if something goes wrong, my colleagues are alerted and my job is done as a data analyst, and I did a perfect job. So the alert, the big red alert button if something goes wrong, is also not the solution. And there's a story that I want to reference by the wonderful Matthew Miller, who used to run the business with me. He talked about a client, actual true story, that had an orb on the desk. And if the orb was glowing green, everything was fine. If the orb was glowing red, something was wrong. A simple use case for alerting, right? So the orb of the alert glowing red, going back to your beautiful dashboard, something goes off, inventory is dropping, alert goes off. And of course, we had alerting in BI tools way before Tableau, so it's been working fine. Alert goes off, and let's say a person named Dave is notified. Something is wrong, inventory is dropping, you need to take action. That action has happened to Dave, he gets the alert, but nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? you did a fantastic job. You had everything organized. Your dashboard is perfect. Your structure is perfect. Your alerting is perfect. Your workflow is perfect. But nothing happens because Dave is in a meeting, or he's on a lunch break, or Dave went home at 5:30 and says, I'm going to spend some time with my kids. And there's nothing wrong with that, but basically the human factor, or the human API as I like to call it, is a breaking point in the organization sometimes. Now I don't want to bring down humans here because I'm a human myself, so I find it quite important. But we built vast amounts of time to build data stacks, modern data stacks, that are fast, reliant, automated, and give notifications, do everything, but there's still a human factor that has to take an action. So if the inventory drops, Dave has to go into a system, ideally Salesforce, and update that system and do an order process into the workflow. But if he's not around, nothing will happen. So how do we solve that? What's the reality today? Is this happening? I'm going to come back to that. The reality today is that what I see daily is where people work, there's where insights live, and there's these islands of trapped data. That's an organization today. It's nothing new. It's been around for 10 years. Even if we build fantastic data stacks, there are still little islands of trapped data, and people have to move from a workspace. Ideally, your dashboards are embedded into Salesforce or Workday or any other application. They have to go to insights. Then they'll book a meeting to talk about those insights, and they'll take action. That's a bit of a situation. So we see that these decision-making points, where the most decisions are at the lowest level in organization, are going up with different kind of metrics. And probably at the C-level, they're waiting for PowerPoint presentations to come in with the metrics. In the mid-line business leaders mostly have access to tools like Tableau, but even the most latest decisions, the most users, do not have access to Tableau and have to rely on an update or an alert or a metric or an email that comes in. So in an organization, there's roughly 1,000+ applications in enterprise. That's a scary number. 1,000+ applications to manage. So 90% of CTOs struggle with data silos. Now we are going to solve that by doing zero copy and integrating all this data so you don't have things move around, but still data silos exist. They will not move. And again, 30% are not taking actions on data-driven, and you as data analysts are spending probably 36 hours per week on fixing data and moving it around. So if you go back to my concert, basically you're sitting on a bunch of trapped islands where sales or marketing or operations or the IT team that's fallen asleep on this picture is just trying to get things going constantly, but everybody's playing their own tune. And where maybe sales has a definition for revenue, maybe finance has a different definition for revenue. This is the actual situation that happens. And you could say, well, Geoffrey, that's not true because we've defined this into Snowflake, or we defined this into our published data sources. Yeah, that's part of a solution, but in reality, this is happening all the time. So how do we solve that? Well, Tableau Next. Now, this is not a Tableau Next pitch. I love Tableau Next, don't get me wrong. I think it's a fantastic product, but it's not going to be the solution for all your challenges, but it's definitely a way forward where we have to move and to really fix things where we can focus back on other things. So for those of you that don't know Tableau Next, and I'm assuming maybe you saw the keynote, just a repetition, Tableau Next is the evolution of what Tableau is, but it's not a product completely replacing the old Tableau. I think I see Tableau as one big platform. Is there a future where Tableau Next will probably incorporate all the features of Tableau in the past? I think so, yeah, because Tableau is 20 years old and maybe needed some updating in their code and maybe some new APIs need to be created and some new technologies. However, it is an evolution. And what Tableau Next really focuses on is obviously the data layer, which is in, I have to say, Data 360 now. We can't say Data Cloud anymore, where really there's a good data layer, but not a data lake. Data 360 is the data layer that Salesforce uses to connect to all those islands of trapped data. So to connect to your Snowflake or your Databricks or your BigQuery and maybe synchronize the data with zero copy. Then is the introduction of a semantic layer. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. There's the visualization layer, of course, that where Tableau shines, and we know it's very well, and you can build fantastic visualizations. But obviously, there's also the action layer. And the action layer is where we can, if you look back to Dave, maybe help Dave a bit by taking already some actions manually automated with workflows. And then there's the agent force integration, which make us shiver sometimes, because why does the AI needs to be bolted on every solution? Well, in this case, I think it's quite useful, because agent forces Tableau layers, inspector being able to answer questions and looking at the data beforehand, concierge being able to ask questions ad hoc, and Data Pro helping you define the data, define calculations, and helping you really organize your content is really strongly useful. And then there's this semantic layer. Why does that matter? The semantic layer matters so much, and it's a bit funny to us, because as maybe there's some old school Tableau people in the room, they say, we don't need a semantic layer, we're just going to build workbooks and data sources connected to it, and we have these multiple data sources. And while tools, I'm talking 15, 20 years ago, like Business Object and Cognos were saying, build the universe, build a metadata layer. MicroStrategy had a metadata layer. So why are we moving suddenly from data sources to metadata? Because technically, simply the market is requesting it, because these AI tools are coming in. A semantic layer is more than a technical layer. It's, by the way, supports Tableau published data sources. If you don't know, you can just push them into the metadata layer. It is important to us because semantics is a bit more than we used to think what it was before. If you look at the left side, for your SQL fans in here, raw data, definition of what is gross revenue, we code that and we're fine. That's our IT semantic layer. But a real business semantic layer is a bit more. We need to define what is the format, of course. We need to define also what is the trend. Simple. Gross revenue, up is good, down is bad. That's a simple one. But also the synonyms. If somebody is going to talk about what's my sales, what's my income, we need to understand that's the same language as revenue. That's your business dictionary. And obviously for AI, guardrails need to be there in there, because revenue does not, for example, include returns. Simple example, but then the agent outputs can actually start understanding how to track revenue, what is good, what is bad, and what our alerts are good for. So we need to help our agents understand our semantics much better. As a human, we kind of define that automatically, but it's often, when I come back to the 30%, based on gut feeling. Now with semantics, we force ourselves to really define much more the KPIs in detail than we did before. So I think you have to look at your semantics as your sheet music that helps you conduct across those businesses. So you have your sales node, you have your profit margin, your customer segments are defined, year-to-date growth is defined for the whole organization. But not only for analytics, but also for different workflows in your organization, or how your agents will handle those workflows and understand which action they need to take. So that's why semantics is becoming a key part of our jobs to define much better than we did in the past. Obviously, there's agent force. We have to talk about agents in this sense. So agent force will solve a lot of things, will help you define, will help you take actions. But basically, you could say the agent can start playing a piece of the music for you. So you can focus on the violin on a nice point, and the agent can help you just update the metrics. I'm going to pause here for a second and show that I didn't forget something, because everybody's going to ask, what about Tableau Desktop? What about Tableau Cloud? Because Tableau Next sounds like this amazing thing that's going to solve everything. So do I still need Tableau Desktop Cloud? No, of course you need it. I think there's an important factor here that it's a big platform. I see Tableau Desktop and Tableau Cloud still as a part of your studio and a part of your basis. Let's be brutally honest, Tableau, the classic Tableau, is still far excelling to build dashboards than Tableau Next is today. Again, I'm sure the Tableau teams are building fast and will catch up, but Tableau is still the gold standard to build dashboards. And it's not only a dashboarding tool, Tableau is still the gold standard to do really deep, fast analysis, understanding your data and diving into that studio of music to understand what's going on, what's going wrong. Because if you haven't prepped any of the logic or the sense or the data analysis up front, then it doesn't work. So how I see it is that with this platform, maybe there's one truth and there's different formats. If you go to the left side, let's say your jamming sessions, you open Tableau Desktop and you're going to understand what's going on with my data. You're going to just start exploring it, finding data quality issues, finding insights, but really have that raw ad hoc analysis. Your Tableau Cloud is your symphony. It's your dashboards, your interactive dashboards being published that allow you to do deep dive interactivity. Where I see Tableau Next today is that nice embedded into the platforms, single hit KPIs, fast metrics, real-time updates that are available, and they can still jump to Tableau dashboards if you need more deep analysis. And your agents and things like Pulse or metrics are keeping the beat alive, are keeping those KPIs to the point. Because if you don't define that very well, if you don't do that deep data analysis upfront to feed your agent, it's going to sound out of tune. We've all seen this. I think maybe if you've played with OpenAI in the past or with Gemini, I've had countless examples where I saw OpenAI just coming back with an analysis and I've said, did you just make this up? Yeah, I'm sorry, I just made this up because I thought I wanted to please you. So if you don't feed it enough interesting data or the correct data, things will fail. Probably you've seen that in countless examples. So for me, Tableau is not a collection of separate tools. It's one big interoperable platform that we can use in the future. So if you're going to go solo with Tableau Next, you'll be fine. But if you already have Tableau and bolting on Tableau Next next to that is a fantastic solution because you can then integrate agentic, integrate things like MCP to really have that interoperable platform. Now, I'm going to steal some slides from my colleague Timothy, who's sitting in front, who's delivering a session this afternoon. A few months ago, there was a Tableau hackathon, which the team of Timothy won. And basically, an example of what we can build into Tableau Next and Tableau's interoperability. So one of the challenges you will have if you're a Tableau customer today and you're buying Tableau Next is, where do I find my insights? Do I have to go to the Tableau Next platform? Do I have to do the Tableau Cloud platform? And how do I serve my business users? So one of the problems we had is there's decentralized information, there's probably new product features, and we're using Slack or Teams, and we want to have a centralized question asking. So I am quite, let's say, chaotic CEO, I would call it like that. I just know that by myself. And I'm also, I wouldn't say lazy, but impatient, and I don't want to go to click on platforms and I open Tableau and I open Tableau Next, and meanwhile I'll go in OpenAI and I forgot what I opened a few months ago. So I just want to have the possibility to ask a question on Slack. In this case, I'm asking, hey, according to our Strava data, who gets up the earliest to go run? Simple question. Now Slack, our Tableau Next question solution, which you'll see live, I think, this afternoon, basically went in and got this chart to help me understand. And this chart is directly pushed from Tableau Next to Slack. It could be Teams, in this case Slack. And also using some LLM logic, it made an analysis. The LLM logic could be connected to your metadata, your semantic layer, or could look at the dashboard and say, in this case, our colleague Anna Bosman is the user who gets most early up in the morning. Fine, I got an answer. Different question, in 2021, did we watch more series or films on Netflix? In this case, this answer was not on Tableau Next, but it was on Tableau Cloud. So it got me an answer back, it gave me some information. Interesting enough, again, I am the chaotic CEO, and I said to my team, but I want all my dashboards on Cloud also on Next, because I want to be able to show them in Next. Okay, but rebuilding that is a lot of effort. So basically what we did is a little question asking, we just answered this question with a viz on Tableau Cloud. Would you like to automatically build that on Tableau Next? One click of the button, and it happened. It automatically, using the APIs, built that kind of capability. So that's one use case we can do on interoperability with Tableau Next and Tableau Cloud. So coming back to your jobs, coming back to what your expectations are, I think your job as a data analyst is far from over. Truth to be told, and I think we had countless discussions in our company also, I think we're evolving a bit more to the business analyst. You're going to talk a bit more to the business than before. And part of your engineering work, part of your data analysis work will be probably handled by agents if you define it correctly. That's going to be reality. But as a data analyst, you have to start designing your beat, your sheet music in a different way. So if you look at different examples, if you define your sales beat, okay, we detect stale deals, we see something, but then we start thinking about what action can we take with Tableau Next, even if this is a Tableau Cloud dashboard. What can we do? Okay, we can scan the CRM emails and we can ping the sales rep. That's a perfect example. Going back to my story with Dave and the inventory, Dave got an alert and had to do some things manually and order the stock. Maybe we can define the workflow agent already to say, I'm monitoring the stock, I'm checking lead times, and I'm already drafting the purchase order for this. So Dave's job is not to build this purchase order, check the lead times, check everything, but just to click accept purchase order or build this purchase order, send it out. Because it's the human API is still important. You cannot trust agents to do everything autonomously, but you can make people's lives more interesting. And as an analyst, we have to think about what's the insight and action in this kind of dashboard we're creating. Another example for data engineers, and this is where Data Pro comes in, detecting nulls, mapping, stopping ETL jobs. So there's much more automation coming in here. So my advice, what you must do differently in the future, I think, is start designing for action and not only for consumption. So don't just build insights, because that's where you'll fall behind. Your business will not be successful. Start really thinking about automated workflows. I would say build a reward activation model. So shift the incentive not to, hey, great, you found the insight, you built the best dashboard, but you built the best action workflow connected to this dashboard as a community organization. And of course, govern your semantics, not as an IT metadata layer, but as a whole business. Because if there's no semantic foundation, your AI will fail. If there's no workflow integration, your insights will get trapped on these islands, and you have to create ownership about your agents. So an agent cannot be owned by the whole business. An agent should be owned, in my personal opinion, by somebody in the data team, analysis team, who can help the business really define what the actions for these agents are. And if we all get that, we should have a beautiful concert into play where actually we're playing together. So let me leave you with this message, is that I would say for the last decades, we've built hundreds, maybe thousands of dashboards, probably 100,000 across the globe. I don't know how many visualizations are in Tableau Public, but it's quite a lot. But building the dashboard alone is not going to help you anymore. It's not a finish line. So basically, you have to look at still Tableau being your studio to design everything, and to start thinking about your semantics layer to really have that sheet music playing. And then you can enable your agents to really play in harmony together. And that's how you change your organization from being a traditional insight-driven only organization to an agentic workflow organization. Because if you don't do that, and this is regardless if it's Tableau or not, your organization will fall behind. The AI hype is just there, and we just need to embrace it and help it really support us so we can focus back on doing the real data analysis work and really focus on finding those stories. So basically the job role for you as a data analyst is not anymore that person playing the violin in the back, but you have to take the conductor role and really start organizing, orchestrating every single step in the organization from insight to action. And that's it for me. Any questions? Yes.
What about security in all of this?
Security. Yeah. So the question is about data security. I think that's where I personally love that Salesforce acquired Tableau, because from a security point of view, they have this trust layer that's completely in there. So the answer is very varied. So I think all your security, your model-defined security, your role-level security as is moving to the semantic layer. That makes sense, because that's where you define who can do what and who can see what and who cannot see what. But that's also important if you start implementing solutions like MCP. MCP, I think there's some talk about, it's a model context protocol where you can just go in OpenAI, connect it to Tableau and answer questions. Your complete login authentication, your authentication should be just taken over there. Your security won't change, but it's going to be defined not anymore on a workbook or dashboard level. You need to define on a semantic level, or ideally, as we did in the past, on the published data source, where you define your user roles. So that should not be impacted, and I think Salesforce's model, the trust model behind that, has really organized that pretty well, so that should work. Yeah?
So we have a bunch of calculations in the Tableau.
Sorry, can't hear you really. Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of calculations everywhere. In the studio, we build a lot of calculations.
Yeah.
And then in various databases, Snowflake and things like that, you have a lot of calculations. So where do you keep all of this synchronized in semantic layer? Is it a catalog that you have?
That's a future problem. What I didn't talk about today is that I'm pretty sure organizations will say, but I have multiple semantic layers. I have one in my data warehouse. I've built dbt on top of that. Now I have to use Tableau semantics. So one part of that solution is that Salesforce and Snowflake, by the way, and some others have launched something called the ODI, Open Data Integration Framework, which allows semantic layers to synchronize with each other in zero copy style. So they're going to solve part of the problem. But what is really imperative to do is move away from any fixing on the dashboard level, as I would call it, or hacking it on the dashboard level. That's not sustainable. And we've done that quite a lot, and I think Excel fans do that all the time. Just chuck it in Excel and do a calculation there. Your agent will fail because it doesn't know. So rebuilding that logic or moving that logic into Tableau semantics is going to be very important. Now today, you can already push your published data sources into Tableau semantics, but I'm pretty sure that there's consultancies like us looking and trying to solve that problem to automate to semantics. But there is going to be some rebuild required for your key indicators. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. For organizations that are considering transition to Tableau Next, how best do we prepare for that transition?
How do you best prepare for the transition to Tableau Next? I think it's the same answer as with any BI tool, basically. We've had companies come to us, hey, we had Power BI, want to move to Tableau now. Fantastic. Just don't rebuild everything and migrate everything. Start rethinking what is necessary for the organization. Start rethinking what is useful in Tableau Next's use case. I think more than ever, and we've built an accelerator on this from Biztory to help you implement Tableau Next, but more than ever we are laser focused on the use case design. So in the past I think our consultants would come in and say, let's just connect to the data and find some data analysis where Tableau really shined and you find some insights and people say, oh, that's interesting. We take a step back with Tableau Next and really say, okay, well, what's the use case you're trying to solve from a business perspective? Because if we talk about that, we're not going to be focusing only on the data analysis, but also on, okay, if that's the use case, what are the potential actions and outcomes we need to take so we can start thinking about those workflow designs that we need to automate with Tableau Next. So if we do this, then when does this workflow kick in? When does workflow kick in? That would be my strongest advice, to look at those use cases first, cut them up, and start building those. But don't try to rebuild your Tableau cockpit dashboards or others. Keep them and just interconnect them with Tableau Next. That's the way to do. One more question in the back.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to hear that, so
Can you hear me now?
I'll have to move to you. No worries. I don't have a headset.
Yeah, so basically we use Snowflake and Tableau, but the same, similar to the semantic layer, the AI agents. Have you sort of found a way to integrate the agents from Snowflake and Tableau into an organization that might use both?
Okay.
You know,
yeah. So the question is, how do you, if you build agents on Snowflake, which is basically a bit of Snowflake intelligence for those who know it. Snowflake intelligence is a fantastic product to really get answers from your data. And how do you integrate that with Tableau? Well, there's different ways forward. There's something called agent to agent as a protocol, where you can probably have Snowflake intelligence speak to Agentforce from Tableau and get actions. But I obviously also think products like MCP are important, the model context protocol. So if you enable MCP on your Snowflake organization and integrate that with Tableau, then it's very easy for the Snowflake intelligence to call out to MCP as an action, and MCP then will call out Tableau to do something, and that's how you get to talk it. So if you go back to my earlier slides where CDOs or CTOs or businesses asking, where do I deploy my agents? I think I would love to be everything into Agentforce because we're at a Salesforce event, but the reality is that we'll have agents running in Snowflake, in Agentforce, maybe somewhere in Copilot, OpenAI, maybe under the hood somewhere, and we just need to find a way to connect them. And MCP is a great way to do that, or agent to agent is also a way to do that, and all these platforms support that. Okay, I'll thank you for your attention again, and if you have more questions, come by our booth at Biztory, and thank you.